Hey everybody, I'm John, and today we're cracking open Hancock's President's Reserve from Buffalo Trace. Let's get into it. Hey everybody, and thank you so much for joining me today here on Blind Whiskey Reviews, the most honest reviews on YouTube. Today I'm very excited to bring you a review of Hancock's Reserve from Buffalo Trace. I really want to do this one. I'm excited to do it because A, it's a whiskey that I've never tried before, B, it's a whiskey you guys have been asking for, and C, I don't understand why it's so hyped up. I gotta find out, so I'm really excited to get into this bottle today. If you haven't joined me for one of these No Time Like the Present reviews before, I'm cracking open a fresh bottle of whiskey, giving you my first impressions before we get to the blind review down the line. I want to let the whiskey get a little bit of airtime before we do the blind review, so that way it's at its peak, it's at its best, and we can really give it a great blind evaluation. So, today we're getting into Hancock's Reserve from Buffalo Trace. This is bottled at 44.45% alcohol by volume, 88.9 proof. It's a relatively expensive bottle. This bottle I think ran me about $45, and I think it typically runs in that $45 to $50 range. So for such a low proof whiskey and not having an age statement, it is pretty expensive. So hopefully it is really good whiskey. So let's not waste any more time. Let's crack this seal and get into it. So if you guys have had the opportunity to try Hancock's Reserve, definitely don't forget to leave me a comment down below. Always want to hear what you guys have to say about these whiskeys. The presentation's decent. I like the squat bottle. It's got a nice dark wood cork here. Let's get a pop. A reasonable pop. Decent cork, nothing too special, a little bit on the light side. Smell this thing right away as the bottle's being opened. Let's pour ourselves some whiskey. All right. Let's give it a nosing here. So it's definitely got some of those Buffalo Trace characters that I recognize. It's definitely got that big red fruit going on. A little bit of brown sugar kind of hiding in the background. Touch of vanilla. A little bit of cherry. A little bit of oak, but not too much. One thing I definitely notice about Buffalo Trace, and especially when the bottles are freshly open, is that red fruit really comes out strong, and it kind of, on some of the whiskeys, starts to peter off after a little bit of time. So I definitely am anticipating this having a lot of that strong, like really red, juicy apple character. So let's see if that's there and get into this one. Cheers. Definitely has some of those Buffalo Trace characters. Don't want to get too deep into flavors on the first taste, as always, but it seems pretty flavorful for a 88 or 89 proof whiskey. So far, so good. Let's get another taste going, though. Yeah, I'm pretty impressed with the amount of flavor here. Now, there is little to no heat. You're really not getting a burn on the palate. You're definitely not getting it going down the chest. There's maybe a slight warming, but that's about it. Very, very approachable. Very, very drinkable. Finish is medium. I mean, it's got a reasonable finish. It's a little thin on the mouthfeel. The mouthfeel is definitely light, but again, I mean, it's what you would expect from a whiskey that's sub 890 proof. But I'm really impressed by the amount of flavor here. So let me get one more taste and we'll get into some more flavor notes. So not quite as much of that big red fruit as I would expect, especially based on the nose, but it's definitely there. We got some of that red apple up front, a little bit of pear. Mid-palate kind of switches into those typical bourbon characters where you got some brown sugar, some vanilla. There's definitely a little bite of oaky tannins on this, left with a little bit of sweetness. It's nicely balanced. This one definitely keeps it Pretty even keeled the whole way through, but not getting too bitter, not getting too sweet. Very easy to drink. This stuff could definitely be dangerous. I'd be really curious to know what kind of age is on this thing. As I get a few more tastes on the palate, the flavor's not coming across quite as bold. Still pretty darn good though. Still a lot of flavor for a 90 proof whiskey. Or sub 90 proof. What did I say it was? 88.9? We'll call it 90. Close enough, right? So anyways, I definitely think this whiskey needs to open up a little bit, and it's not a high proof whiskey, so I'm not expecting a lot of change, but as we always do in these reviews, we're going to let it sit in the glass for 20-30 minutes, give it the opportunity to get a little bit of airtime since this is a neck pour on this bottle, and just see what we can kind of expect, if there's any signs that this whiskey's going to change with getting a little bit of airtime. So we're going to let it sit, and we'll be right back. All right, we're back, and the whiskey's been in the glass for right about 25 minutes, so let's get back into this and see if it's opened up a little bit. I mean, the nose smells even more red fruity right now. Really just popping with that juicy red apple. Yeah, that really kind of holds true on the palate too. Much more red fruit on the palate, much more fruity sweetness kind of going across the entire palate, front to back. A little more brown sugar sweetness, vanilla. You're kind of left with the finish of like a bitter vanilla with a little bit of that fruity sweetness kind of blended in. Yeah, it's much better now than it was before. Really just kind of opened up some of these nice fruity characters. It's a little more punchy, a little bit more, I wouldn't say the intensity of the flavor is more, but there just is more different complexity there. There's more flavors to taste, more flavors to pick from, more flavors to look for. So I'm actually really enjoying this, and I really wasn't sure what I was going to think of it. Just like I said, it's got a really high price point for a low proof whiskey without an age statement. There's just not a lot on paper that says this whiskey should be worth that kind of money. And do I think it's worth the $50 that this thing kind of, $45, $50 that it goes for? Ah, God, it's so tough. I mean, it is a good, flavorful whiskey, but $45, $50 is a lot of money. For me, this feels much more like a $35 whiskey. If this was $35, I would definitely be buying it all the time. Maybe even, maybe even up to 40. So I am impressed with it. I do think it is actually a really good whiskey, but the price point's just a touch too high for me. Let's get one more taste here. I'll give you my final notes. Yeah, just another nice, tasty release from Buffalo Trace. I think it's just a strange release. Like I said, it's a strange proof. 88.9 proof is a weird number. It's sub 90 proof, which again is a little bit strange. I wish this was a little bit higher. I mean, I wish this was maybe like a 95 proof release or a 100 proof release, But I just think it fits in a weird spot. You've got other Buffalo Trace releases that are higher proof than this with age statements. Like Weller 12, for example, while it's difficult to get and people mark it up, the retail price of Weller 12 is still, under $30. It's got a 12-year age statement. It's 90 proof. What does this have that whiskey doesn't? Why does this whiskey command, 50% more dollars than that whiskey does? It just doesn't make sense. Or like Rock Hill Farms. Rock Hill Farms goes for the same price that this whiskey does, but Rock Hill Farms is a 100 proof whiskey. So I don't know. I just don't know where this fits in the Buffalo Trace line, but let's forget the price and forget all of that. It's good whiskey. It's tasty. I'm enjoying it. I'm really looking forward to seeing what this bottle does. And it's super easy drinking. This is a great bottle to bring out when you have some people over that don't necessarily aren't into whiskey and they want something that's pretty approachable. This is a really approachable whiskey with a ton of flavor, but it just doesn't bring that fire and bring that heat that might put some new, beginning drinkers off. So that's really good about this. So I'm impressed with the whiskey. I think it's tasty. I would say I would score this in a blind review if I had to guess. I'd say it's kind of like in the upper mid 80s, like 86, 87. I think it's good. I think it's solid. I think, like I said, I could use a bit more proof and a little more punch out of it, but I think still the complexity is nice, the balance is very good, and the flavors that are here are flavors that I really enjoy. So for me, I'm going to say this is an 87. Very solid whiskey. I can't wait to see what it does in the blind review and see if the proof kind of is off-putting when I do it blind. You know, if that low proof really kind of shines through and makes me mark it down a little bit. So I'm curious to see what happens. But anyways, like I said before, if you guys have tried Hancock's Reserve before, let me know what you think in the comments down below. I'm really curious to hear what's your guys' impression. Do you think it's worth the price? You know, the 45, 50 bucks, is that worth it to you? I don't know. This stuff flies off the shelves, so it's worth it to somebody. So anyways, let me know what you think in the comments down below. And as always, you can catch me on Instagram and Twitter at blind_reviews. You can also catch me on Instagram at Mission Bottle Kill, where I'm posting all kinds of pictures of people killing amazing bottles of whiskey. So if you want me to repost your bottle kill, just tag at Mission Bottle Kill in the post. You can also send me an email at blindwhiskeyreviews, that's whiskey with an E, at gmail.com. And until next time, cheers.